Hello again. Let's take a look at the front pages of this morning's papers. Concerns over the looming Israeli ground invasion leads the Financial Times. Its headline, residents flee Gaza City in fear. The Eye has a similar front page, no escape. Gazans try to flee but face Israel's revenge. The Guardian says thousands have already fled their homes ahead of the expected invasion. And the Telegraph reports that Israel has already sent some forces in and is warning of a powerful offensive to come. Israel's tank strike into Gaza reads the Mail, and the Express carries a plea from the Archbishop of Canterbury to give innocent people in Gaza the chance to survive. While the Times focuses on the plight of a disabled teenage girl who was one of the people taken hostage by Hamas attackers last week. And the Mirror says police in the UK have been placed on high alert for possible terror attacks connected to the conflict in the Middle East. And in other news, The Sun says that the BBC is paying Freddie Flintoff £9 million after he was injured while filming Top Gear. Well, joining us again this morning to review the papers, we have the UK editor of The Big Issue, Paul McNamee, and also the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. Really good to have you here again with us this hour. Paul, let's start with you. You've picked this article inside the Times, talking about normally during war times, populations tend to galvanise, don't they? And certainly in support of the leader, that's when you see their popularity rise. That's not what we're getting in Israel at all.
No, this is a fascinating piece of analysis on an opinion poll, a couple of opinion polls coming out of Israel from yesterday, and it shows almost wholesale turning against Netanyahu. And some of the numbers that are coming out are incredible. According to the poll, 94% of Israelis believe the government is to blame for the war, which, considering a lot of the analysis that's going around, I think is quite startling, stunning. 59% of them do not have faith in the government's ability to lead the country. So,
he was politically troubled anyway.
Well, yes, we saw over the last number of months some of the protests against Netanyahu, his proposed changes to the judiciary in Israel. His changes resulted in the reservists in the army not wishing to be called up, which now I guess they have been. But yeah, he was in a difficult position, and now another part of this poll says that if there was an election today, he would return only 19 seats in the Knesset, which is, I think, down 40% from where it was. So we are seeing that while around the world people are trying to understand what are the next steps for Israel, where's Israel going to go, what's happening with when they move in to Gaza, as it looks inevitable now. On the ground at home in Israel, the people are not with Netanyahu. So then I guess the debate over the next little while will be how long will he hold on? What are the next steps for him? And then if there is a unity government, will he lead it, or will there be some kind of snap election?
Yeah, plenty of things to play out there in Israel. Dawn, closer to home, police on high alert for potential terror.
Yes, I picked this story, Sam, because it follows on very nicely from what Paul's just been talking about. This is the Daily Mirror story on page 4 and 5. The fact that police are on high alert for terror attacks as pro-Palestinian demonstrators are preparing to take to the streets of the United Kingdom. There's a big rally being organised in London, and the Met Police are saying more than 100,000 officers will be patrolling vulnerable locations. This comes after the former Hamas chief, Khaled Meshaal, called for protests across the world and literally called for a jihad. Which is worrying language, and counter-terrorism network are looking into whether this actually can be charged with inciting terrorism. But, you know, the people organising these marches are saying it is for peace, it is about the people of Palestine, it's not about supporting Hamas. And this comes back to what Paul was saying about Israel and Netanyahu. And the vast majority of ordinary Israelis clearly do not support the way that state has been run under Netanyahu's government. And people are now taking out Israel's behaviour, which they don't support in Israel, but on ordinary Jewish populations around the world. And these marches in London and across the UK this weekend are causing an awful lot of worry for the Jewish communities who are being targeted purely because of their faith.
And we had 4 schools in London that didn't open.
Absolutely. My friend's got a little boy who goes to one of those schools, and his school was closed, and he's only 10. And he was terrified to go to school in any case. Now try explaining to a 10-year-old who lives in a leafy North London suburb geopolitics and why people suddenly hate, in inverted commas, him because he goes to a Jewish school. But I mean, we've seen a huge rise in anti-Semitic incidents in the UK in the past 6 days. This time last year was 32. This week it's been 190. But the worrying thing, Sammy, is our Islamophobia is also on the increase. I live in East London, and you've now got the 2 communities happily living side by side most of the time. But again, there is this, you walk down the street, there is this feeling of suspicion between the 2 communities once again, and it's horrible that this isn't just affecting Palestine and Israel. This is affecting pretty much the whole world now.
Let's talk about the Telegraph, Paul. This is talking about the responsibility, we don't have long, the responsibility of social media companies to stop posting content from terrorist groups like Hamas.
Well, we know the power of social media. We have seen it growing, and there has been some kickback against Elon Musk and allowing what he says freedom of speech, but without responsibility. Over recent times, there has been the EU calling on Mark Zuckerberg to do something about what is coming out on Facebook. And this is an ongoing story because freedom of speech doesn't just exist in a vacuum. If you're inciting people, you've got to accept responsibility for that, or else don't do it. And it comes again to this question of whether social media organizations are publishers or just platforms. And personally, I think that they're publishers, and they must accept responsibility and do something about it. But it is an ongoing, difficult debate, and it's not going to be resolved over the next couple of days.
And they can, under the bill that's coming in, the online protection bill, online safety bill that's coming in this country.
The long-awaited.
It's the long-awaited. Finally, it might actually happen. It's about to come into law. But basically, the people running these companies, like Facebook and Twitter or X, can now face jail if they don't actually act and start taking down some of these videos. But there was one video that's, I think, still on Facebook of a grandmother who was murdered in one of the kibbutzes, and whoever murdered her, the terrorists, we assume, put this video on Facebook and on her own Facebook page, and that, I think, is still on there. So why are they not taking these down? And we all know that the first casualty of any war is the truth, and there's so much propaganda out there on both sides as well. And what I think the social media companies need to be aware of is that by not acting, these things are costing lives, costing even more lives.
Yeah. Presents many challenges also for us in
of course,
journalism, bringing
absolutely.
the news to people. Well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for at this hour.